Well, parts of Africa are seeing a deadly outbreak of a disease called monkeypox. It's been around for a while, and it pops up occasionally in a big way right now. The disease is incurable. It could reach this country before we know it's coming. It's got a long incubation period of about 16 days. What's the nature of the threat, and is it one, which is a terrific place, and she joins us tonight. Doctor, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
So if it takes a couple of weeks for a person infected with monkeypox to show symptoms, that suggests you could have people coming over here with it, and then they get sick from it in the United States. What happens then? How contagious is it? What are the effects?
Well, the good news is it's not very easily spread between person to person. It's actually more easily spread from a wild animal to a person. But it can be spread amongst human beings, and that's usually through respiratory droplets, but very close contact. So a caregiver of someone who's sick with this virus, that's the kind of person who'd be more prone to get it. But it's still concerning because, as you said, it can be fatal in up to 10% of cases. That's a pretty deadly kind of virus. Is there any kind of defense against it? There's no treatment for it. Now, it is similar to smallpox. So the smallpox vaccine does offer some protection against the monkeypox. Supportive care. Occasionally, a general antiviral medication can be given in very severe cases, but it doesn't always work. Huh. So if you had an outbreak in this country with obviously the most advanced medical care in the world, do you think you'd still see a 10% fatality rate? I mean, the range is between 2 to 10% in terms of fatality, and because our care is so great in this country, we would hope to be closer to the 1 or 2% level. But again, there is no actual cure for it. So certainly immunocompromised people, young children would be more prone to really succumbing to this virus. So it still could be very deadly even in this country, which is why it's so important that scientists from this country are over in Africa trying to really get a better handle on what causes it, how is it transmitted, because we can't just sort of keep our head in the sand and think it's over there, it's far away. As you said, we're a global society now. Anything can come here in a matter of a couple days. As with so many diseases. That's right. Dr. Rush, thank you very much for your perspective. Thank you. Well, is it time to get real about tightening travel restrictions from countries where this outbreak is occurring and the United States? David Teferi is a former State Department official, and he joins us tonight. David, I'm against overreacting to anything, including this. But I also notice a certain overreaction on the other side, and I've seen with a bunch of other outbreaks of illness over the years where the globalists in our midst basically make the case it's meaningfully screen people coming to our country because it's mean. Would you take that position in this case?
Well, monkeypox is a scary disease, as was Ebola, and we should be doing everything we can to prevent people from getting it here and to screen people who come here so that we make sure it isn't brought here. Now, it's important to note that the Immigration and Nationality Act already requires medical screening for refugees and other immigrants who come here. They have to be screened in their country of origin if they apply in their country of origin, or if they make it here without being screened, they have to be screened here before their immigration status is changed. That's appropriate. Now, look at how we dealt with Ebola, which ultimately we dealt with it quite well, and we ended up preventing it from having an outbreak here in the U.S. The way we did that is we screened people at the airport to determine where they came from, if they were in Africa, and if they came from countries where Ebola was present, they could possibly be quarantined. That was the appropriate way to deal with Ebola, and I would say this is the right way to deal with monkeypox as well. Ebola is not actually very contagious. If you keep sanitary conditions, you don't have a lot of body fluids flying around, you're probably not going to get Ebola. And there's never been an Ebola outbreak in the West because of that. This, as you just heard the doctor say, can be spread through sneezing. So it's a totally different thing, actually. And I guess my question is theoretical. I'm not calling for any kind of quarantine of visitors here. But theoretically, if you had a country with a real outbreak of this in Central Africa, for example, why wouldn't you, in the interest of our population, say we're not taking anybody from that country until this dies down? Well, if the only way to protect America was to ban people from coming from that country, that would be appropriate. But we have to look at lesser measures first.
Why?
Because if there are lesser measures that would allow not to have a ban but still protect America, then that's what you do.
Why would we do that? I mean, look, if you go, look, and I'm not arguing for this in this case, but I'm just saying theoretically, and it's meaningful because there are a lot of diseases out there that could come here for real. This is a real thing.
Correct.
If your only real interest was protecting American citizens, which is, of course, not the real interest of our elites, as we both know, but let's say it was. Let's say you were following the Constitution and just looking out for your people as you're supposed to. You don't owe anybody from any country other than this one anything. So why would you let a single person from that country in here? Because any person represents some risk. Why would you do that to your people?
Well, Tucker, you have to look at the science. If a person truly poses a risk because of the country that they're coming from, and there's no way to mitigate that risk in a way to protect American people, then yes, we should ban them. But we should remember we are a country of immigrants. Thanksgiving is coming up in 2 weeks.
Oh, so
the
that's
Pilgrims
more,
were immigrants.
That's more important. Okay,
no,
right.
It's not more important. But it is an important policy that we allow immigration, that we do encourage immigration, that we are a beacon of hope for people who come from
no normal
oppressed
person would apply
this countries.
And
as I said,
no person would have that standard with his own children. You wouldn't say, I want to mitigate the risk. You'd say, no, I want to eliminate the risk because I love them. They're my kids. I care about them. My job is to protect them. But our leaders don't feel that way about us. So like, oh, I'll mitigate it. They'll probably be fine. Maybe not totally fine. Fine enough for you. That's what they're saying.
Well, you have to look at each disease when it comes up, and you have to deal with it based on the science. As I said, if the only way to protect America is to ban people from a particular country, then we should do that. But that's not what we had to do with Ebola. We did quarantine. That was enough.
Look,
and it's also important to remember that one of the ways we solved Ebola is by bringing some people who were infected back here so they can get the great medical treatment that we have here in the U.S. in order to help solve Ebola.
Our duty. We're out of time. David, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Deeply revealing as always. So an interview with first daughter Ivanka Trump after the break.